Hello. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon. If you are in Europe, good morning if you are in Latin America, or good evening if you are in Asia. We are happy that you join us today. We are so glad in the middle of everything that's going on, and there is the technology that help us to connect to each other. And let's get started. Thank you so much for connecting with us. We have Juan Barrios from FDI Intelligence from the Financial Times today that he will be sharing like the next part of this agenda, and also have my colleague Ismael from the WTO Investments. And we are here to support you in this webinar. So let me get started by sharing my screen, please. So we develop a series of our slide with the purpose to strengthen in terms of investments. So the new series that we are launching, or we actually launched yesterday, is related that we are facing during COVID times, of course, regarding to investments. And for this purpose, we are doing these regional webinars. We started yesterday with Latin America, and today we are doing part, of course, for Latin America for the English-speaking countries in Latin America, but we decided to open up this webinar as well to other latitudes because there is a lot of excitement and questions in regard to this program. Just to give you an idea of the agenda as people join us, this webinar is very simple. It will be one hour, and it has three parts. The first part, we are going to talk about the trends and challenges that we are facing currently. We developed different papers and different guidelines last year that actually is giving us a glimpse of what will come. And we will provide you that information, how the pandemic is impacting the investments in the tourism sector. And the second part is the most important part for me that we want to actually put more time, is the demo of the tools that Juan will be presenting. And the third part will be the questions in regard to those tools. So let's get started. So the new series that we are launching are based on different assumptions. This series of webinars are part of a program that we are developing jointly with the Financial Times and the FDI Intelligence from the Financial Times to strengthen the member states, and we are trying to make it very practical. So that's why we decided to open up different tools. So our member states will actually apply, and they will get access to these tools. And that's why we are trying to open up these platforms so you actually can take advantage during the COVID. So just to give you some information, last year before the pandemic, this was the big picture of the tourism sector, right? And it was like one of the most constant in terms of growth of the sector. It has almost 10 year of growth in the last. In the index of different sectors. There were about 1.5 billion people traveling overseas, and in the last 10 years, and the projections that we have, for instance, for the next 10 years, is considered that about 50 million people are traveling every year. That's kind of the rate of growth. But of course, everything is changing now with the pandemic. And since the tourism sector is like labor intensive, it accounts for one of the out of 10 jobs worldwide. So it's really powerful what's going on before the pandemic. And of course, after COVID and after we declare a pandemic, we saw a huge drop in the tourism. As you can tell, like the average of the drop was almost 75%. And you can see in the slide how it affected in different regions. So, and of course, this is really powerful when you see the numbers. Actually, it's almost 1.1 billion people actually that stopped traveling due to the restrictions that were issued in different countries and different regions. And of course, as you know, it's different every 2 months or every week because everything is constant and nobody wants to give any projections or different scenarios because it's so constant to this point. And it's super interesting for us once we talk about investments because there is a parallelism and there's a high correlation between the international tourist arrivals growth and the drop on the foreign direct investments. It's almost 74% according to the Financial Times data. So as you can imagine, this is one of the sectors that was hit the most in this time, and this is just based on greenfield investments. And according to the Financial Times, there is this almost $50 billion drop of FDI greenfield investments compared with the last year, and this is just considering half of the year from last year because we are still accounting from the project from last year. So we are going to have a report, updated report on this in June to measure the impacts of COVID, and we are working currently in another project to see the impact of COVID with WIPA as well. It will be ready next month. Sorry, in May. In regards to the investments with the venture capital firms, as you can tell, also it was or has been decreasing in the per month, but it's super interesting for us when you see the aggregated data of venture capital firms, everything related with travel tech startups and mobility startups. The amounts of deals that they were invested in the sector actually decreased, but the amount of money was actually almost constant and actually growth at least 12% in last year. And it wasn't just from the travel tech sector. So there is across the venture capital firms, the growth was really constant last year, and it was actually one of the most high investment that happened in the last 10 years regarding investment in the travel tech sector. If we aggregated this data, there was a lot of new subsectors that have been growing in terms of investments. Mostly before, for instance, the pandemic, the investments were related to this booking, accommodation solutions, and this commerce and shopping, of course, solutions. And of course, it was heavily influenced by transportation with the micromobility, like the scooters and the electric cars. But after the pandemic hit, we have a growing sector of investments in the healthcare and in events. This was actually one of the biggest sectors or niches that grew in the last 18 months, and other different sectors, subsectors that are part of these investments. So what I'm trying to say here is that even though we have this backdrop of investments in greenfield investments, in traditional investments, there were other opportunities through the digitalization and through the travel tech startups and mobility startups that have been growing. And one of the biggest examples, as you can tell, is Zoom, that everybody is fan of it. And now we are using Zoom through this webinar. And as you can tell, Zoom, for instance, reached a market cap almost as big as all the big airlines combined. And this is just a glimpse of what's going on. And if you see the aggregated data, is absolutely amazing what's going on in this sector. So to summarize this impact, as you can tell, there is almost 75% of in the international tourist arrivals. According to the data that we have from our market intelligence department in the UNWTO, is they say that we are actually going like 30 years back in regards the data of international tourists. And for me, the biggest number here, or the most important, is the 100 to 120 million jobs that are at risk during this time. The question is, how are we going to go back, and do we need to, what do we need to shift in regard to what it has been doing in investments? What are the new frameworks that we need to provide for new investors? How can we restore the confidence? How can we ensure that we are opening the border safely, and so forth and so on? And as you can tell, this is some data from UNTAC. This is one of the most affected countries that are dependent on tourism based on the contribution of GDP. And you can identify if you are from one of those countries, right? We are trying to see how can we provide different tools and mechanisms for investments to support these countries, because we have different tiers of countries during this time, and every country is a different world, right? So we have different governance, different rules, different incentives per country, and we need to define how can we tailor the best mechanisms to support these countries. And all of this to say that when we talk in UNWTO, how can we help the countries? We are trying to answer this question, like, what can we do in this gap? How can we fill this gap in regard the incentives, in regard the initiatives for investments that actually can help go back to normal? And we know, and we are aware that this will take minimum 2 years. And the question that we are trying to ask the country members is, like, how can we support you during this time? Because of course, as you know, this is global, and we need to work in coordination with different organizations. This is kind of like the first part that I wanted to sink in your in this presentation during this time, so we actually can tie to the practical part. Last year, we developed these guidelines, this paper on the trends in the tourism industry, and we identified these different characteristics of the new consumer behavior, which mostly will be millennials and will be the generation Zoom for the next 10 years. And of course, they are more digital. They are trying to travel frequently, and we can see that already in the shortness of the trips. They are very close to their regions, and they're looking for authenticity. They are more sustainable, which is one of the biggest opportunities that we have. And we believe that this pandemic is accelerating the transitions towards sustainable investment. When I was talking also with some people from Booking, like 2 weeks ago or last year, they said that they saw a lot of demand for green labels, for instance, in their platforms. And when you talk to other people that are working these platform-based companies, that is kind of one of the trends that we are seeing. Like, people are looking for more sustainable hotels, for sustainable means of transportation. And I think this is a huge opportunity to create different destinations and different solutions on that. And of course, they're looking for experience and looking for transparency in terms of data, in terms of security and health issues, of course. As you can tell, there is a lot of information that you can actually read in the guidelines that we publish in our website. This for us is a huge opportunity to see how can we develop these new mechanisms to understand the context, and also to create different practical measures for for investors? How can we create these frameworks that we can actually safeguard the investments that are already on place or they are planning to be developed in these next months? But also, how can we restore the confidence in the middle of the pandemic, right? So for that reason, we actually are more intentional in our collaboration with the FDI intelligence, with the Financial Times, and we are trying to provide these digital platforms that they had already, and most of you probably are already clients from with them. But they are very gracious with us because we have 159 country members, and they are opening different free trials for these platforms. And after this webinar, we are going to provide more information in the case you haven't received it yet. So the main purpose of this webinar, besides giving you this little information about the trends, is to provide you with these platforms. And that is why we want to showcase some of the solutions the FDI intelligence have through Juan in his presentations, and you will see how powerful these tools are and how important these tools are in order to promote investments during the lockdowns, for instance. The UNWTO it acts as a interface between our member states and also companies like the Financial Times and other investors, so we can facilitate these mechanisms to promote and attract investment during this time. So I don't want to take more time from Juan, and I just want to give you this big picture, and I hope Juan will clarify it and will make it more practical. So the floor is yours, Juan.
Thank you so much, Miguel. It is a pleasure for us to work together with UNWTO. And my name is Juan. As you already know, I'm part of FDI Intelligence, which is a service of the Financial Times. Today, okay, I'm going to share my screen, and I will give you an overview of the topics that I will kind of present, okay? I would like this to be more interactive, so feel free to send any question that you have in the box, in the question box, and probably Miguel will be helping me to answer or to communicate those questions. I will be trying to get you the best answer possible, okay? So I'm gonna share my screen right now. 1 second. And then what you can see on the screen is an overview of what are we going to present today, at least from this part of the webinar. First of all, as Miguel already mentioned, from the Financial Times FDI Intelligence, we are going to provide a temporary access to two powerful platforms, which are FDI Markets and FDI Benchmark. I will go into details shortly, okay? And then I'm sorry about that BBC notification. But anyways, and the second part of my presentation will be, talking about the creation of virtual tours for your regions, your cities, your countries. And so now I'm going to present into more details FDI Markets, okay? Once you access to FDI Markets, okay, all the member states which apply for this platform would get this access. And just to give you a general idea of what you're gonna have here, FDI Markets is the most comprehensive, FDI tracking system. So it has information about every greenfield project in the world. So it's a very powerful tool. Before the actual presentation, I created a study in the upper part, and this study is related to tourism, of course. So what you see on the screen is like projects related to the tourism sector, okay, from 2003 till the present. And then you're gonna have every information about every single company investing in tourism. So this is great to have when you want to have a full view of, which companies are active in the investment world. And then even more important, companies active in times of COVID, and what are the trends, etc. So when you're new to the platform, I would recommend you to go to the help part in the upper bar, okay? And then you will have access to the tutorial videos, so which are very complete, okay? And then through these videos, you will learn how to, basically navigate within the platform. And the last bit that I wanted to cover in this very brief, intro to FDI markets is the investor signal part. One of the huge functions of this platform is the feature of, tracking investment signals, or let's say announcement of companies which have capital to invest, abroad. So for instance, there will be a description of this project, okay, how much they have, to invest, also what type of investment that will be, of new investment strategy, expansion, etc. So within the temporary access, okay, you won't have the visibility to the investor signal. However, it's very important to know that that functionality exists within the platform. Okay, the second one, going forward in my explanation, is FDI benchmark. FDI benchmark has a different nature. You also have access to this platform, but this platform will help you assess your location in terms of competitiveness, okay? So when you would like to make a comparison in depth, of course, of your country, your city, in this example, I created, a study comparing the countries you see on the screen. Okay? And I also selected a specific sector profile. In this case, one relevant could be hotel for you. So I click on next. Okay, I save the changes. And then what I'm gonna have here are two aspects. First, the economic aspect, where we study, per location, per country, per city, depending on what you would like to assess, how competitive they are within a sector, in this case, within the hotel sector. So, and this analysis goes into detail because you will be able to assess infrastructure, labor availability, etc. So this can be an eye opener for every single, member state, because you will be able to revise your policies, what it needs to be in place to improve, okay? For instance, labor availability and quality, what are the key, the pioneers, and what aspect should be assessed when you are trying to improve your methodology, your actually to have a more targeted objective, and etc. Okay, so that is very important. And the final comment on this FDI benchmark that you will have access to is the cost assessment. So it will show you how cost efficient will be to invest within the hotel sector in every location that we assess. Okay, and then finally, there's some extra tools within the platform, which is going to give you a picture, that balance that any investor is always measuring between, the quality score, or what I referred before as, the economic aspect, the economic variables, versus the cost, how much is will be to open a hotel in one of the locations in questions. So that is the overview I can give you very quickly on FDI benchmark. Obviously, there are some, help and content that can help you in the help, part that I'm pointing on the screen. And but in a few minutes, I will show you my contact details in case you have any questions for those, member states that might have any specific, basically comments or questions. So having said that, I covered the two of the intelligence platform that you through UNWTO will have a temporary access. Now I will share my screen. Well, what you already seeing on my screen, the aspect which is basically focusing on the creation of virtual tours. This topic is a very hot topic nowadays, especially after all this situation. And I know in some countries we're still struggling with to recover first and to find that light at the end of the tunnel. So I would advise you to keep your eyes and ears open in this part, because my aim is to inspire you to adopt new technologies. And that's actually part of the opening lines that I wanted to share with you. So everybody knows here and that how important it is now to become more digital. And it was a trend. And I always say this, it was a trend a couple of years ago, but now it's a must. And we really need to, to adopt it in our everyday. And it's not only being, digital in our internal process, but how we tell our story. So having said that, and I'm gonna start more into content about the creation of virtual tour and what is the easiest way for you to make the next step. Okay, so the way we do it from the Financial Times FDI Intelligence is through our application called Zoom Tour. Okay, Zoom Tour is an application that would allow you to create your own virtual tour. It is a software as a service, as you have, for instance, Salesforce, as you have so many, services that are online on the cloud. And it always has to be user-friendly, in both ways. One, user-friendly for the person who is creating the actual virtual tour, okay? That person, by the way, doesn't need any technical background. You will see how easy it will be to create a tour. Then this tour, obviously, as in any tour, will have multiple stops, locations that you would like to showcase. But also one of the main benefits of this sort of technologies, or the ones in the end, that you might come up in your path, is that you really need to use all the content that you already have. So to maximize the use of all that, collaterals, images, videos, that they already exist. In many cases, okay, they are spread everywhere. And that could be a problem, actually. So, and then the promotion of your website and social networks, because at the very end, you host your Zoom tour. It could be on a URL, but also it could be leaving your tours within your website. And obviously the social network helps you to spread the word. And then sharing is key, is crucial. If you don't, you can have the greatest virtual tour, but you need to share it in all the channels you may know, through your partners, let's say newsletters, etc. And obviously those Zoom tours can be actually proposals when you're traveling. Hopefully we're going to do it very soon. And so that they can have multiple sort of uses. What kind of tours? And this is, to go more into the technical part, let's say, what kind of tours you can create. So in the world, we have seen different sort of tours. So it's open for every single theme, any single topic that you might have in mind. There are locations in the world using it to, showcase properties available for investors within the tourism sector. So you can show like piece of land, or buildings, offices there. But also, obviously for, planning a trip anywhere in Latin America and Europe, but the recommended route, or the recommended, let's say path that you want that visitor to go and experience, of course. And there are other locations using, or creating a Zoom tour to showcase the film locations. San Francisco, we have like one actual, organization in Canada that created a very, very cool virtual tour only with the film locations. And in the end, is open to your creativity, because we really need to innovate, and now more than ever. Okay, so having said that, okay, I will jump to the actual tours. Okay, I'm gonna show you a few examples of virtual tours, and then I'm gonna show you how easy it is to create those virtual tours with the Zoom tour application. The first one, okay, is one community in the United States, in South Carolina to be specific, and it's called NISA. So NISA, as they creating all the content within the application, okay, they can insert any text, any audio, any image, etc., within this interface, which is a very active, interactive mapping system. Okay, so as you can see below, you have different stops here that you can basically name in every stop. But I'm gonna select specific stops that will give you some ideas of what is the best, content to share within a specific mapping system. So first of all, infrastructure. Every single investor will always look at, how developed is your infrastructure or what you currently have, okay? So you see here from the technical point of view that you can, showcase different sort of, let's say examples. And I'm sorry about the speed of my internet, but you can see that it has a panoramic view of the location we would like to show to that investor. Obviously, a description, and in this case of NISA, they wanted also to have some audio, as I mentioned before. This is to start. Now, you will see some tabs here where you can actually add any multimedia that you have already within your office or your unit, and then a live location or where that site is located within the big scheme within the map. Now, there's another one that is very related to the promotion of their touristic sites. And then you can see, how attractive the city is, some, images from the airport, and they also try to add, the city center, etc. But then you have in this tab different sort of additional information, like the street view, or you can even, create an input of like 3D or 360 view. But in this case, we have that sort of content within the tool, the Zoom tour. Again, the exact location of that site, together with relevant information that could be related to that is telling the story in the end about this location in South Carolina. So you can insert or add information related to demographic, any existing content that you already have, as I said before. So that's the stop number 5. But there are others that will be worth to show you. They decided to add, for instance, an embedded video within that 360 view that it complements to all the content we want to show. But it's not that showing for the sake of showing. Every piece of material, every piece of content, any view must be a strategic sort of action that helps me to navigate first that investor, but also to call the attention of that person, and eventually, obviously having that person to invest in our location. So another one, just to finalize on NISA, could be it is important also to showcase different institutes or different education facilities that you might offer within your region to prepare those employees and that are going to be hired by this multinational, by this investor. It could be, this is very relevant to showcase, because it would tell part of what you offer as a community, or as a country in general. And also there's another one, and with this I just I finished on NISA, but again, it should be driven by important, robust information, and that also creates an impact, that makes an impact in the person that is visiting and the investor which is looking at your tour. So this was NISA case. There's another case I wanted to show, but this is a bit shorter. This is in Ohio, okay? They're working with us, and then a part of what you see here with the same sort of structure, Ohio wanted to first, they wanted to show, for instance, companies that they already located, or in this case, they wanted to show this industrial site, which is ready for, an office or an investor that want to be on site and start operations there. So they add, as obviously a view of the facilities, the exact location on the map, information, media, etc. Okay, that's one of the components that they wanted to highlight within there. You can, also showcase or include different sort of, companies already, operating there, etc. There's another one which I thought it was interesting. I presented this yesterday as well in the Spanish version of this webinar. And this particular location, they wanted to, before the investor, started operations, or before they have, all the offices ready to go, they facilitated, or they are facilitating now, this mobile office where you can start your hiring process, you can start the recruitment process, so your operations are, ongoing before you actually make the bigger, let's say, move into, move into your main building. So again, relevant information, you can add your own website here, and or any existing piece of content that you already have. And then another interesting one could be when you want to, for instance, showcase any research park. Okay, you can basically walk this investor with, on this specific facility, or where the airport is located is also important. How easy for me is to get from all the stops that I'm seeing on an interactive map, okay, where how close is that airport to the other locations that are part of my virtual tour. Okay, and to finish this part, as I mentioned before, and they have a research park, and they sort of included this, Miami Valley Research Park within, this virtual tour. So there are so many examples, and again, this was a creative location, and instead of showing different locations, they wanted to show existing companies already working in Yuma, which is, this location is between Arizona and Mexico. And to give reassurance to any potential investor, they decided to create a tour, highlighting all the existing multinational investor within the community. So if I'm an investor based in Hong Kong or in Madrid, seeing this will give me that sort of, let's say, as I said before, reassurance that this is a good place to invest. And then the obvious pieces of tours that I wanted to share. This is the one I referred before with the San Francisco movie tour. So all the places where films were, movies were filmed or recorded in San Francisco. And again, the same principle. And so this is telling me the story of the city through this interactive map. And then as an extra, we have in Bilbao, for instance, a tour within the main touristic attraction, which is very, very cool to have. Before, if I were a tourist, before I take the flight to Bilbao, it will be nice to see, you know, or to have a taste, because it will never be the same, but to have a taste of that experience. And that helps me feel that I'm already with one foot already there. So, and we have the same, for instance, I think I had in Monterrey. So we have like a museum here in Monterrey. And maybe I can find very quickly, because I like the Barcelona. Okay. And by the way, now what I'm showing is that once your tour is created, it's so easy to find it, because it's no more than a URL, it's a link. So this is the Barcelona one. I created this one like in 10 minutes. So first we have like the stops I wanted to add to the tour, my 3 favorite spots in Barcelona. Then obviously I start with La Sagrada Familia, with all the content, the relevant content, obviously the nice view, where it's located, etc. And then again, I wanted to go to Well Park, and with Well Park, I want to have like that feeling of how does it look first, you know, once I'm there, what kind of things I'm gonna look at. And so it gives me that sort of sense, what kind of location it is. And obviously it will create a positive impact on the audience. And this is, you know, the last stop on the aquarium of Barcelona. And again, this is like a, you know, virtual reality could be. And maybe the quality on your screens is not the best, but, you know, when you are the actual visitor of the tour, you know, you have the audio. I'm not entirely sure if you can hear it now, but it is really a very realistic experience. And okay, going back to the order of elements I wanted to show. The last thing I mentioned was I'm going to show the Monterrey. Okay, I created this simple tour, and now I'm going to move completely to the explanation how easy it is to create a virtual tour. Okay, so when you want to create a virtual tour, the only thing that you will have access to create this tool is to an admin site. Okay, so an admin site, and I'm gonna move this. I will show you how it looks like. 1 second. So within the admin site, I can add multiple number of tours. Okay, I can create one for Monterrey, one for Ciudad de Mexico, Guadalajara, etc. But within a city, I can create multiple themes. For instance, you know, parks in Monterrey, or industrial parks, or infrastructure in Monterrey. For each tour, we will have one line. Okay, and then the only thing how I start creating this tool is by adding a Zoom tour. When I add a Zoom tour, I just give a name of that tour, and then I save. Once I click on save, okay, the things that we're gonna see is you will be able to add first an introduction, and we can edit an introduction with the name. I add all the content. That's what I said. I made a lot of reference to existing content or your description text. You can add this to this box. Okay, you can edit that. Once you enter that, I start adding the stops. And here is my first stop in Monterrey. It was Macro Plaza. And then you will see different sort of components of information that you will be able to quickly enter. So first, I wanted a description. You don't want a long description. Maybe I put a lot of text. I included a lot of text. But together with that, and here's what makes this application, you know, one of the points I wanted to also mention, this makes it different, because you can either locate the specific point, you know, manually on the map, or you can, you know, look for the address. That's what I did to find the Macro Plaza in Monterrey, in this case. Okay, once I find the right location, I save it. Okay, I can enter the Facebook page the LinkedIn page, and every sort of, you know, social media channel that you want to also show. And then, and if you want a link to your website or the main, you know, investment attraction website of your city, your country, you can add that within the content. Anyways, then we go to Street View. Again, I select the Street View I want to showcase, you know, manually. Is a very straightforward process. Again, you don't need any, you know, technical background. And then I can just create a custom tour, which means, for instance, if you already have a video, and then let's say an office that is ready for you know, an investor related to tourism, or a hotel that would like to, is on sale, and if you have those images, you can quickly enter the URL for that video, and you can have a 360 view if you want to add it, okay? Or in case it's not on the map, then you can add simply, you know, in a simple way, images or videos. Those are exactly, you know, this is exactly the content that you saw before on the Monterey Zoom tour. And finally, data, it could be anything. It could be, let's say, a PDF file, it could be your own website, etc. So this will be my tool for me to quickly create that tour. Let's assume that in 10 minutes, I completed 3, 4, 5 stops, okay? Once I create, you know, once I complete every stop with all the relevant content, I just click on this application and view Zoom tour, and look what happens. Basically, I have a URL, okay, with the Zoom tour ready on an interactive map and telling me that compelling story, okay? Obviously, I did this in 10 minutes, so it probably is not the greatest example, but my aim was to show you how easy it is to create this sort of Zoom tour, okay? And then again, I think one crucial part is the type of information you decide to enter, because it's your own, is your personal way to tell your story as a city, as a country, you know, as a group of businesses, as an industrial park, etc. So, and how all of this, when I said that this is only a URL, how can we promote this? Apart from the obvious ways, okay, generally we have, you know, organizations within the United States and Canada that the first and again, obvious spot is on the main website. So I want I want to explore Chile. I can create, you know, multiple tours, multiple regional tours, and with a click within that website, I just, you know, open my own Zoom tour. By the way, this was the NISA, the location in South Carolina that I showed you before. And then this is basically how any you know, potential investor will enter and start experiencing the Zoom tour. With that, I'm gonna open, let's say, a window for questions, and I will share as well some of the final thoughts, takeaways with you, and then just to keep in mind that we really need to embrace new technologies, regardless the nature of the technology, but technologies which are relevant for you. I'm not only talking about the applications I walk you through today, but in general, you have to find a compelling way to tell your story, okay? And I'm mentioning map-based because through maps, you give that experience, that idea, and it's not something vague. And then you have to optimize what you already have been working for years, which is your content, you know, videos, you know, collaterals, marketing, you know, material, and that needs to be, you know, concentrated in a single spot, but in a very well organized way. And finally, I will share my contact details in case we don't have actually the the enough time for all the questions, I will send my LinkedIn, so you can don't feel free actually to get in touch with me directly. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Juan. It was really super clear. So let's jump into the questions if you allow me to. Just before the start, please feel free to answer any questions to the Q&A, please, not through the chat. So we will actually gather all the questions. Juan, thank you so much. It was super comprehensive and clear. Really appreciate it. I liked your example and practicity at the end of the presentation. There is one question from Sally McMacken. She said, are these tours interactive for users, and can they actually chat or have Q&A questions there and talks?
Okay, so first of all, thank you for that question. Generally, it will depend on the features you have on your website. The tour per se, okay, the application, because obviously the tour will be used by you. So we do not provide that, response the service and within the tour. However, in the NISA case, for instance, in the website I show, okay, they can add that feature of, live chat, live message. But I believe the most important takeaway here is that the fact that you will drag that attention through, adding any virtual tour within your website, but also is not only within the website. You can open the same link, okay, for a presentation that you have on a webinar, on a client visit, etc., without going to your website. So to be short on that answer, it does not provide kind of a live a Q&A feature. That is something that you will need to have in place.
Yeah, and there is a similar question here, or maybe related to the topic. It's from an anonymous attendee. They ask, how can you monetize these Zoom tours? But maybe if you allow me, I can answer that. The main idea about these webinars and these tools, of course, for instance, we are focusing, or we actually want to target the investment promotion agencies, for instance, who are in charge of the strategy of the regions, countries, or cities. And since they have already a pipeline of specific projects, they actually can create the narrative and they can show the story, as Juan was saying. And for me personally, this is really powerful because you actually can create a glimpse of what where are the projects located, what is around the projects, and actually you can see almost, super clear, even the places, the infrastructure, the surrenders, and everything else. And I think since this is a tool, the main idea is to generate leads to your location, right? And then from that, you can actually take it and develop a different funnel for follow-up and develop different relationship with your investors. But the main idea, of course, is to provide these tools for cities, for countries, so they actually can promote potential projects that are already being promoted or need to be promoted during these times of lockdowns.
It is important also to mention, Miguel, that this application is brand new, so probably there's nothing, let's say that you know about similar to a Zoom tour. And in Latin America is even newer because in Europe as well. And because it started in San Francisco, we have sort of an office there. And then they developed this application between November and December. and we're seeing great success in North America. So all the locations, that's why when you probably spotted that I showcase many locations in North America. But for instance, we are working one in Panama, and you will see sort of a great result for Panama, and that will be the first in Latin America, hopefully to be launched very soon. And but it is getting, you know, spread out in Latin America, because again, this is not a trend anymore. This is like a must.
That's right, and I'm so glad about this. Last year when we talked with Sarah, I think, who is in the chat from the Financial Times, she was so excited because this is kind of like a new tool that was born and has a lot of potential during this time. And another questions that have been coming through the different channels are, of course, related to how can we access to all these tools. And the quick answer is that many of you have been contacted, or you already received some links to access to the setup for these tools. For those who are still interested, we are going to send another email as well, and then you will be in touch directly with Juan and his team in order to provide and to gain access to this. To these tools. Another
I also
question
sent,
that
I'm sorry, Miguel, I also
go ahead.
share a link with two important, well, one of them is not, maybe not that important. One is the link to my LinkedIn, in case you have any question. And, but also I share the link with, you know, frequently asked questions on the application on how to create virtual tours. So I think that will be very, very, very relevant for you guys, because it will clarify any questions that you might have, and for instance, what it is or what kind of tours you can create, how you can customize it, etc. So I just share with you both links. Feel free to open them and save them.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I don't know if you have access to the Q&A questions. Can you reply the last question there?
Yes, I see here. So I have interactive for user, like linked or okay, that we covered that. I'm sorry. The last one is Antigone. Any insights on success, interest, leverage on behalf of investor via this application? Yes, actually. So when you're telling your story through a virtual tour, okay, one of the tips we always give is to, for one stop or one specific Zoom tour that you have, that you are showcasing, always you can add sort of the main person to contact, or also you can redirect them to the main site that you want to, you know, drive that traffic. It could be on a chat system that you already have, or it could be to your website because you're monitoring, you know, who is visiting your website. So all of that is, you know, well thought in order to get that insight, or who is, you know, using your Zoom tour.
Yeah. Just to reinforce the message as well, since we have been sharing all this information and we have been in touch with different investment promotion agencies and our state members, it's also important to know that there are different tiers of countries, and sometimes different countries have different strengths, or there are other countries that they don't even have an investment promotion agency. So that's why we are here to help from the UNWTO. Many countries, for instance, ask us, how can we develop and formulate an investment promotion agency in which we can actually develop the benchmark that you were showing at the beginning, you know, because they don't even have that. And there are different issues with the governance of how they actually promote this. But other countries are more developed and they are ready with the pipeline for the projects to be promoted and to attract investors. So it depends how you are or what kind of country or strategy you develop. So we are here to help. And for that case, you can just send us an email and we can have a conversation to tailor how can we actually provide the best tools for your based on your needs of your region and your country as well.
I think we are on time, Miguel, right?
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
But I didn't mean to interrupt you. Just like
No,
for
it's
if
okay.
you let me to give a few words, closing
Please
remarks.
go
I
ahead.
believe that
Appreciate it.
for every member state that they will use FDI market, FDI benchmark, and also that might consider a Sumtur, I think they need to exploit, the tools in this probably next 2 weeks. They're very powerful. So I think you will see how impactful can be for your job, because at the very end, you're gonna make your decision, your strategy based on like actual real-time data, and that is so powerful. And apart from let's say the features of Sumtor, which is, I say many times during the presentation, is also a condition nowadays. And so I wish you all the best and thank you for your attention. Now I pass it to you, Miguel.
Yeah, thank you so much, Juan. I really appreciate your time. I know Sarah is also in the chat. Thank you, Sarah, for all your time and effort. And thank you all of you to be so patient on this webinar. And we are looking forward to connect soon. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.